Welcome to the Tits Up podcast with Coley Arnold, the unapologetic space for women in the thick of it. You know, the messy middle where you're too far in to quit, but the finish line feels like a mirage. Where the pressure is high, the stakes are real, and every win feels hard-earned. This isn't a highlight reel. This is the unfiltered truth about building a business, holding your life together, and finding your fire when it would be easier to burn it all down. If you're tired of fake perfection and ready for the real, raw conversations that make you feel seen and lit up, then grab your coffee, your courage, and let's do this. Shoulders back, head high, tits up, girlfriend. Are you building a business that might look good on paper but still feels lonely, messy, or unclear behind the scenes? You don't have to figure it all out alone. The Foundress is a community for female founders who are ready to scale with clarity, connection, and purpose. Whether you're making your first 6 figures or scaling towards 7, we're the place where your ambition is seen, your ideas are sharpened, and your success is celebrated. Inside, you'll find strategy, deep support, and a powerful circle of women who get it. Because at Foundress, we don't just network, we grow together. If you're craving more than just another business group, if you're ready for mentorship, momentum, and women who speak your language, come join us. Your seat at the table is waiting. Head to foundress.co to learn more. Episode, I am sitting down with Ebony Green, who owns her own speech therapy private practice. We are going to uncover the scarcity mindset, the limiting beliefs, and the blood, sweat, and tears that it takes to build a private practice from zero to multi-millions, landing yourself in the Inc. 5000 award, and how community has made a huge impact in growing the success of the business. Tune in. We can't wait to see you inside. Hello and welcome. I have Ebony here today with us, and Ebony has been in my life for the last 2 years, I think, and in Foundress is how we met. But it's been such a journey to watch you just completely blow up in your business, watch you mentor incredible people that you have in your community. So we're going to dive into all that stuff. But I want to start just kind of by hearing a little bit about how you got started, what's your background, and what got you into speech therapy. And yeah, let's just dive in there first.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited for this podcast. Honestly, when I first met you, I thought you already had a podcast.
Like, oh, how funny.
It was so surprising to me that you did not have a platform because you help so many women. I mean, you're an incredible force in the community for women entrepreneurs. So congrats on the Tits Up podcast. And I'm so glad to be one of your guests this season. Mm-hmm. So a little bit about me. I started my career working in the schools. I started as a speech language pathologist working in South Phoenix at an elementary school. And I had transitioned out of being a classroom teacher for 4 years. Okay. And when I moved to Arizona, I'm just going to say it, the teacher pay was horrible. Yeah. It was like, what? I'm making like twice
And
this.
where'd you come from?
I came from Texas.
Okay.
So Texas actually paid their teachers very well. Wow. And my husband and I were both teachers. Well, he decided to get his MBA, so he got a job in the tech industry. And then I was trying to figure out if I even wanted to go back into teaching after seeing what teachers in Arizona were making at the time. I decided to pivot and look into something that was similar. And speech language pathology was actually something that I had already started researching. And I actually took a few courses before moving out to Arizona, but I hadn't fully committed. The reason I chose speech language pathology is because when I was a teacher, there were some kids in my classroom who had IEPs. They were always struggling, to stay caught up. And I felt terrible that I was so overwhelmed with 30 kids in my classroom that I could never really give them the support that they needed. Yeah. So I talked to the speech language pathologist who would pick them up from my class for speech therapy every week. And I said, how could I do this if I ever wanted to be a speech therapist? And she said, it's going to take a long time because you have to have a master's degree. I only had a bachelor's at the time. Okay. And you have to have all these courses before you can even apply to grad school. So that's where I started taking those courses. And when I came to Arizona, I was like, okay, I'm fully committed to doing this now because I'm not going back into the classroom. Yeah. And it's been amazing. I had the chance to work in the school setting. I started working for different private practices. Okay. And then in 2019, I started my own private practice.
That's amazing. So did you know you always wanted to own your own practice when you first started?
No, actually, I thought I was going to work in the school setting like for my entire career. I had worked in the schools as a teacher and I loved working in that setting, but I actually had a really bad experience my first job as a speech language pathologist, working in the school. So I had always worked in different settings, and as an assistant, I actually became an assistant before I became a full credentialed SLP. And I loved, being able to work in that community. When you work in a school, you get to collaborate with other professionals. Yeah. It's a little different from working in a clinic. But my first job working as a certified speech language pathologist, outside of being an assistant, I had a really bad experience. I worked at a school where normally you're supposed to see about 50 kids a week if you are a full-time speech language pathologist. I had 100 kids on my caseload.
Oh my gosh.
And I was part-time. I was 3 days a week.
Wow.
So not only did I have double the number of kiddos that I was responsible for, but I had half the amount of time that a full-time person would have to make sure that the kids are getting their therapy. Wow. So it was very overwhelming.
Yeah, I bet.
And I had, talked to someone about maybe going out on my own, seeing my own clients on the side. And after experiencing just the burnout that came with that experience, I fully committed to starting my own private practice because I never wanted to be in a position where I was working outside of my normal work hours. Right. I was supposed to be at home with my kids on my days off, and I was at work. So it was just not what I signed up for. And I knew that I could have the job that I wanted with the hours that I wanted if I just finally invested in myself. So I started my private practice shortly after quitting that job.
Wow. So tell me about that leap, because we can sit here and be like, so then I just started this, right? It sounds so easy, and I'm sure it was not easy.
Absolutely,
so
yeah.
How'd that process look? How'd you know, you have to bet on yourself, right?
100%.
More than anything else. And taking that big leap into entrepreneurship is a huge leap from working inside the school district.
Absolutely, yes. So my one piece of advice, if you are wanting to transition out of a job working for someone and go work for yourself, is you have to have what I like to call FU money.
Yes. That
money is what allowed me to get out of that job because I did not have to depend on my school salary. I didn't have to depend on the benefits. I had money set aside that whenever I was ready to leave, I could say F you and walk out the door. So start saving. My husband and I went on a debt-free journey. Shortly after I finished graduate school, and we wanted to get out of as much debt as possible. We paid off all of our debt. And that is not thanks to me. He is the financial genius in our relationship. He does finance for a living. So
amazing.
So
I think what I heard is marry someone who does finances.
Exactly. Yes. That meme that went viral, I'm looking for a guy in finance.
Yes, totally.
You need to actually do that.
There you go.
So he prepared a spreadsheet that just had all of our bills. It had how much we needed to pay off to get debt free. And we stuck to that. We had to make some sacrifices. And it was difficult because I was like, okay, I just finished grad school. Like, we're making money now. You have your MBA. But we lived on a very tight budget so that we can get out of debt. And I was able to save for when I did decide to go into private practice.
That's amazing.
And I just felt like, having that extra money on the side was something that gave me security because I knew that eventually I did want to, maybe have a side business. I didn't think it was going to be like a full-time business. And that would probably mean cutting back some hours at school, but I ended up leaving completely. Wow. So I had to use that money I had set aside and rely on that. And I will say that it was a very scary leap.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was going to work. I didn't know if people were going to want to come work for me. I didn't know if I was going to get clients. Thankfully, it all worked out. And here we are 7 years later.
Wow. And it's been such a cool journey watching you kind of just expand and grow and step into your power, right? Because obviously you know what you're doing. You're an amazing speech pathologist, but then running a business is a completely different side of the business, right? That most entrepreneurs jump in and they're like, whoa, what the fuck is this? I did not sign up for this. Like, I wanted to be creative.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, yes. This is a safe space. This is a very safe space. But I think a lot of times we as entrepreneurs, and I know this happened to me, is you go into entrepreneurship because you have a passion to help others.
Correct.
And then all of a sudden you have to pay taxes, and then you have to balance your budget, and then you have and then you have to hire, and then you have to fire, and then you're like, what the hell is all this stuff, and why is this all on me, and who could help me, right?
Correct.
So talk a little bit about that journey of like stepping into that role. But and what I think we don't talk about a lot is, yes, we have to do those things, but you have to do them at the same time. And you have to juggle, like, I have to keep my business running and making an income while I'm also then working on the back end of the job, which really is a whole full-time job, right? So how did you balance that just starting out?
So number one, recognizing that I had weaknesses when it came to being an entrepreneur. I was a good clinician, right? And a lot of people in healthcare entrepreneurship start their own practices because they feel like they're a good clinician, and that's all you need to do is be a good clinician. The biggest mistake you can make is believing that being a good clinician is going to help you be a good business owner, because it's not. So I recognized that I had weaknesses when it came to running a business, and the first thing I did was I got a mentor.
Smart.
There was a lady who had put an ad on I want to say Craigslist. It's like, it sounds so old. But there was a Craigslist ad for this lady who was doing a women's entrepreneur meetup once a week. And it was at one of like the local retirement community, like inside of their like day room or whatever. And amazing. So she rented the space, and we would go there once a week, and she had an agenda. And she would go through all these different things that you needed to know about business, marketing, how to, take care of your finances, all the things that I didn't know because I was a well-trained speech language pathologist, but not a well-trained business owner.
Right.
So number one is I recognized where my weaknesses were, and I got a mentor to help me learn how to overcome those weaknesses. Right. Second of all, I learned once I started to scale and grow that there were going to be people on my team who were necessary because I cannot do everything myself, right?
Amen. Can you say that again?
We need people on our teams to help us grow because we cannot do it all ourselves. Yes. That was a very hard truth for me to accept because I'm so used to doing everything myself.
Yeah.
I was the person in college who was doing the whole project because I just want to make sure it's done right. Right.
Oldest daughter.
Yeah. Yes. So type A, want to be in charge, bossy, all those things. But as a business owner, when you want to scale, you really cannot do everything because you will burn out. So those were the top two things that I learned that I was not taught when I became a speech language pathologist. And I think recognizing my weaknesses, learning how to delegate, and trusting people who are smarter and more skilled than I am in certain areas is what helped me overcome those barriers.
And how did you get over the, I hate to use the word control freak, but as a recovering control freak, how did you get over that by allowing someone to come in? When you build a business, it's like your baby,
Correct.
like, right? It's you poured blood, sweat, tears, finances, everything into this baby. And then you're bringing people on, and there's this level of trust, which you said that you have to have with them to carry your baby into that next level, season, whatever it is. So how did you get over that kind of control feeling, and how did you end up letting go and allowing them to kind of have some control of that?
Letting go is definitely challenging, especially as a type A, as a control freak. What has helped me is recognizing that if I hire someone to do a job and I've been through the interview process and I vetted them, I have to not only trust them, but I have to trust myself. Yeah. I have to recognize that I saw something in them that allowed me to move forward with bringing them onto my team.
Oh, that's good. So
trust yourself when you go through that whole process of vetting someone and you're still afraid to delegate to them and let go. Are you really trusting yourself? Right. Second of all, you have to realize that it's trial and error a lot of times, and you have to be okay with making mistakes. I've made a few mistakes with hires. And while I beat myself up about it, like, how did I not see these red flags? How did I think that this person was right when they were clearly not the right person? it is okay to make mistakes, and you learn from those mistakes. So because I've learned from the mistakes that I've made, we hire much faster, we hire more efficiently, we get an upgrade every time that somebody comes in to replace someone that we either had to let go or that has left. The next person is an upgrade because we know how to recognize what it is that we need and what we want for our team.
So good. And then do you fire quickly? Are you quick to fire?
Absolutely. Fire, what is it? Fire fast or hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah. And that's a hard lesson. And also I think small businesses, because it's your baby, you do treat the people that work with you like family. And you're an amazing woman. You're a mentor yourself. And so you have, I'm sure you've had people on your team where you're like, oh my gosh, I love you. Like you're one of my family members, but you're not doing a great job. And how do we get over that scary conversation? You know, how do you, to be quick to fire, how do you jump into that conversation? Do you have parameters in your business? Do you have, talk through a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's a good question. So one thing about me is that I always lead with professionalism. I am someone who can do well under pressure. I will sometimes, like, if I had to pick a meme that described my life, I will say that I'm the person who's the dog with like the fire is going on and it's like, everything's fine.
I got this.
We're good. I got this. That is totally me in any difficult conversation. Anytime that I have to show up as Ebony the professional, I can show up as Ebony the professional. Now, what happens when I go home and I talk to my husband about my day and I'm like, I want to blow this shit up.
Right.
That's a totally different Ebony, but nobody on my team is ever going to see that. So a couple of things that I do is I always lead with professionalism. I always state the facts. I don't make it emotional at all because I recognize that at the end of the day, your team is watching you. They want to see how you're going to react, right? B, I've invested so much into this business. Like people don't even see everything that I've invested into this business. So when I think about how I have to show up as the strong, professional, like fearless boss that I am, it's almost like, paying my future self for everything that I have invested. Because if I show up as, the weak person who doesn't know how to have these difficult conversations, so I'm just going to let things slide under the rug. Like all the stuff that I invested, all the time, all the money, all the blood, sweat, and tears, it feels almost like kind of not worth it, like invalidated because I'm allowing something that's, it's a big deal, but it should really be a small deal if you're a business owner because it's a routine thing that happens. You have to lay someone off. You have to let them go. That should not jeopardize my business. So I lead with professionalism. And second of all, having boundaries. I have really good boundaries. Yes, as you mentioned, people who work on my team are very close to me. They're like family, but I definitely have boundaries. So there's a certain boundary that I do not cross. I do not allow other people to cross, right? And I think having that boundary in place is what really helps when you have to have a conversation with someone about something that needs to be corrected, or if you have to unfortunately let someone go. Like if you have a boundary between personal and business, that definitely helps.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so good. Okay. So one of the things in Foundress we talk a lot about is the messy middle. Like one thing led to another. Every time I hear that, I want to stab someone. So let's talk about, because you just got honored as the Inc. 5000 business, which is unbelievable.
Thank you.
And so congratulations. But we all know that we didn't get there by butterflies and roses, right? So what is one thing I want to highlight, because there's obviously so much good that happens to get there, and then there's struggles.
Absolutely.
So for those listening where they might be inside that messy middle and they're going, I know I'm meant for more. I know in my soul that I'm supposed to have this purpose and this big dream come to life, but I'm currently in this messy middle and all I can see is mud. What would you say, maybe something that you experienced that you would kind of give them an encouragement on, that if they're feeling a certain way or feeling stuck, and then something that just really, something good that could just encourage them to keep going?
Sure. Yeah, there's been a lot of times where I wanted to just throw in the towel. I mean, yes, I did get the Inc. 5000 award, which was incredible. Such a huge honor to have that award, and it sits on my desk. But to go from me as a single therapist running, all over the city with therapy materials in the back of my car because we were mobile when we first started, to now being honored as one of the fastest growing private companies in America was it was a big journey. And there were some times where I wanted to throw in the towel. I think, the times that were the most difficult was when I felt like I didn't have support from people that I trusted on my team. Yeah. Going back to your question about, how do you let go? How do you delegate? I am someone who, once I trust you, I fully trust you. I don't ever look at things with the glass half empty. I look at it as the glass is half full. Like, I have this amazing person on my team. They're going to take us to the moon, right? But you realize that not everybody is meant to take you to the moon. Not everybody wants to go to the moon with you, right? Some people,
they're like, I'm kind of comfy here.
they're comfy just sitting on the ground in the rocket, right? So I felt as though, something was wrong with me because I had these big dreams to take us to the moon, and there were people that weren't ready to go there with us or who had no desire to go to the moon. So I had to pivot multiple times and find those team members who had the same vision, who could trust, my leadership and where I wanted to take my company. And I think that was the most difficult part, was just going through, several iterations of what my leadership team looked like. At one point, 5 people all left at the same time, either because, they transitioned out voluntarily or involuntarily. So having to replace 5 key roles at the same time was the most difficult season that I had ever experienced. And I was able to get through it. I still am amazed at how I got through that, but I was able to replace all of them. And as I said before, every person that came in was an upgrade.
Right.
So again, trust yourself. Remember that if this is truly your purpose, there are going to be obstacles, but you should have the tools and the knowledge necessary to get through those obstacles, whether it's through your network, whether it's through a mentor, whether it's through, teaching yourself through Google. There are
lots of chat GPT questions.
Lots of chat GPT. Now we have chat GPT. So, you have to think, you have to be quick on your feet when you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Losing 5 people at the same time was like, okay, I can be sad for 24 hours, but tomorrow we got to figure this the fuck out because it's not going to be, me doing all of these 5 people's jobs. Somebody has to come in and help. And so we figured it out. I have an amazing team now.
That's amazing.
And we've added even more support roles as well since that has happened. So, I just kept going. I didn't, I wasn't sad for more than 24 hours.
I like the time frame.
Yes.
You have 24 hours.
24 hours to be sad.
But you have to feel it, right? Yeah. And oftentimes I see entrepreneurs, and I've experienced this myself, that you feel like the world will crumble if you don't take that next step. And so we often don't give ourselves time to grieve or be sad when something like that happens. And like I said before, we are dealing with something that is so precious to us. We've poured all of our finances and all of our resources, all of our time into this business.
Right.
And then all of a sudden something happens and you're like, if I don't wake up and get my shit together, this all goes away. Right. And there's this fear of that. And so oftentimes we don't allow ourselves to feel. And then that's when burnout comes even faster, because we're holding all this trauma basically in our lives or in our bodies. And we aren't able to let that go. So I love what you said of give yourself a time frame. Let's feel it because this is hard.
Yeah.
And it's okay to sit in that. And I think there's a beauty in that pause of let's really feel how this feels. Because I think also you get to come on the other side and go, that sucked and I'm still alive.
Yeah.
And I made it, right? You said that. We had to get rid of 5 people and I'm still here. We're still a company. Yes. And we just won this massive award. Yeah. Right? You can't, my therapist says, look around, make sure you see, the tiger is not chasing you up a tree right now. You are okay and you're going to survive. But it's that feeling and pause. And then, okay, what's that action step that I get to take? That next, what's
Yes.
that next step to solve this problem?
Yeah. And that's exactly what I did. I gave myself the time to process and came up with an action plan, move forward with that action plan. And even still, I still go back to some of those feelings of, the fear, me beating up myself, and reminding myself that I can release that. I can release that because we're no longer in that situation. I've overcome, the difficult part of what was going on. And I have to still sometimes give myself permission to release that and move on, because it's almost, you can have like PTSD from some of the stuff that you go through as an entrepreneur. You really can.
Yeah. Well, everything rides on you. And this is one of the things I said over and over again when I stepped out onto my own and took Foundress over after our partners left. And it was those, even though I was kind of Foundress was in my bucket. That was kind of my thing. When you have other people that you rely on, it's kind of like, oh, well, if this succeeds, like we all did this together. If this falls apart, we all did this together, right? You're like, this is not just me, woohoo. But it's almost that sense of false security. And then when you're out on your own, you're like, if this fails, this is all on me. And I don't have a plan B. There's no going back to the school district, right? There's no going back to, I went to school to be a second grade teacher. Like, that's not going to happen, guys.
Right.
There's no plan B. So this has to work. And so there is so much pressure on making this dream that you have and like come to life and continue to grow. So how has that growth been for you? Obviously, I imagine when you started, you're like, okay, I'm just going to have this small little practice. I'm going to make up my hours, make up my paycheck from when I was waking at the school, and I'll be so happy, right? And this has turned into something that you didn't even imagine.
Correct.
So talk a little bit about what that evolution was and how you decided. Did the business just grow and you chased it? Or is it one of those things where you're like, oh no, I'm deciding like this is shit or get off the pot. Let's make this thing big.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So what you described is pretty accurate. I left the schools and I was like, okay, I just need X amount of patients to see every week, and then I can replace my school paycheck. That happened so quick. It was like within a month, I had like enough to replace what I was making at the school district. And then
not 100 clients.
And not 100 clients. Right.
Wow.
And it just kept growing. Like I just kept getting more and more phone calls. There were more and more kids being referred. And honestly, it wasn't about making a certain dollar amount. It wasn't about making my company a certain size, because I had always said I wanted to be a small company. And I think that was a part of the problem with the staffing issues, is that, people who were working for me in the very beginning were used to hearing me say that we were going to remain small. And then when we started to blow up, it was like, oh, what's happening? Like things are changing. So there was a little bit of misalignment there. And I think the reason I was saying that was because I was afraid. I was fearful to get too big. I actually have written down, I used to journal that I was afraid to get too big in my business. Now we have 100 people on the team. So, obviously, like I got over that fear, but the reason that we kept growing is because I just could not say no to these kids that needed services.
Wow.
In Arizona, there's over 50,000 kids that get services through the state, and we have a contract with the state of Arizona. So all of our referrals come directly from that contract, and there's a massive need. Even with 100 people on my team, we still have a wait list of 200 patients that need services. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So for me, it was about not saying no. Like, how many therapists can I get so that we can get all these kids seen, right? Wow. And it just kept going and going. And we brought in, different services, because then our speech therapy services were, the kids that were getting those services were asking for OT. They were asking for music therapy. They were asking for feeding therapy. So the whole time I'm like, okay, how can we meet this need? Let me go hire a music therapist. Let me go hire a feeding therapist. Let me get my team trained on some of these things that we can provide that we don't have the training on yet. So we did a lot just to keep up with the demand and to support our patients as best as possible.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I heard a quote one time. It said, I'm not afraid of success. I'm afraid of being successful and not having the support I need. Yes. And I think that's so true when you're growing, is going, how do I create this support as we grow? And it's oftentimes you have to hire before you're ready. And then it's not like, would you spend the money? Is it the chicken, the egg? What's first, right? So it's such a hard process. But speaking of support, you have an incredible team now.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I admire so much about you is that you are a huge advocate of culture in your team, that you spend a ton of money, a ton of time pouring into your staff members.
Yeah.
And yes, like we said, you treat them like family, but you also respect them so much. And I think without the respect there, you wouldn't pour in those resources to them, right? And so talk about, I know we share a business coach, so we have that in common, and I'm obsessed with Coach Christy, but talk a little bit about why you chose to kind of dive into that personal development on your team, and then what have you seen kind of outpour? What are the ripple effects from that you've seen in your business?
Yeah. So I've always been someone who has been obsessed with personal development and learning. When I was a teacher, I was the one signing up for all the extra trainings and going out of town to learn from some of the teacher experts. And that just kind of carried over into my professional life as a speech language pathologist. I've won awards for having like hundreds of hours of continuing education just because I just love to learn. So when building my team, I thought, how can I best support these people to be the very, very best version of themselves? Because whether they work for me or they work for someone else, they need to have leadership skills. And I don't know if you've hired, people from our younger generation, but there's definitely a gap, right, with some of the skills. I just felt like having the leadership skills, the knowledge, those are skills that no matter where my team members go, they can use them to advance professionally. So I invested in getting them coaching as much as I invest in my own coaching. As a leader, there are certain things that are innate, but there are certain things that you have to learn. Yeah. So if I'm trusting my leadership team to manage, a team of 100 people, like they need someone to help them. Yeah. They need someone that they can vent to. And it doesn't necessarily have to be me. It can be someone else that they trust. So our leadership coach, Coach Christy, has definitely helped with navigating some of the things that my leaders encounter in their day-to-day operations and in their roles. So I believe that investment is something that pays dividends, because every time a difficult situation comes up, every time something outside of, the training that I gave them comes up, they know how to handle it and they do it confidently. That helps me feel confident in who they are as leaders. And I never have any doubts in my mind that, if I had to leave for an extended period of time, that they couldn't handle running the entire business without me, because they have that much support, and they've learned so much from the leadership coach that they have, and from all of the education that they've taken on their own to become good leaders.
That's amazing. And I remember, I think it was either the beginning of this year or end of last year, you took your first sabbatical away from your business.
Yes.
And I remember talking to you right before you left, and you're like, I'm terrified.
Yeah.
But they did great.
They did amazing. Yeah. So I took a sabbatical because my husband works for a company where they get like 8 weeks off every 7 years or something like that. So I was like, one day I'm going to take a sabbatical. So now that I have my own business, why not? Right. So this year I took off 6 weeks during the summer, completely away from the business, no emails, no check-ins, just being able to enjoy my time off with my kids because they were on summer break. And my team did incredible. Like, I came back and everything was just like I left it. We had hired some people. We had done like our highest revenue months when I was gone. So I was like,
could you leave more, please?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I need to get out of the way more often. So yeah, and nobody felt resentful or, like they had to work harder because I was gone. And I think that was my biggest fear. So when we spoke and I said I was terrified, it was about how my team would take me being gone, like how they would perceive the fact that I'm taking off for 6 weeks and they're at work.
Right.
I never want them to feel like I'm giving them, all the work and I'm just relaxing, chilling,
Right.
Sipping margaritas all day. Like, I want them to understand that I'm just as invested as they are, if not more. Obviously,
Right.
like, I care more about the company than anyone else because I'm the owner. But sometimes people can have different perceptions. I've had people that are no longer on my team that would feel that way if I was gone, that I wasn't doing anything productive, for the company. And no, I work all the time. Like, in my head, I'm always thinking about this business. So just because I'm not physically there does not mean that I'm not invested in the company. Right. And so that was my fear, was that they wouldn't understand that this was something that I was doing to become a better leader when I came back. But they were totally fine. And they were like, please leave again.
That's amazing. I love it. Which means that you've done such a great job of setting them up for success and preparing and have the systems and processes in place. That doesn't happen by accident, right?
No, not at all.
And the years of planning. So congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Okay. So I want to dive into community. We talk a lot about community on this podcast. Obviously, I am a fierce advocate of female communities and the support that it provides. But what I think is so unique about you and what you do is that a lot of times people can look at competition or other people in their industry and go, well, I can never partner with them, or I can never give them advice because I don't want, or I could never even ask for advice from someone else because I don't want them to think I'm copying them. Right. And it's this perception of that we cannot connect with people that are doing the same thing as we do because it's almost like that scarcity mindset. And then there's you, who's like, okay, watch out, world. Yeah. Not only am I going to reach out and support others, like, you started a community for other people who do exactly what you do.
Exactly. Yes, I did. I just believe that there's strength in numbers. So why not come together? Why not use each other as a resource? I have always been a part of a community. I started with the one that I mentioned, where I was, learning from the lady who was doing the small groups at the senior living center. And then I transitioned to other communities, and now I'm in the Foundress. And I've just always gleaned, so much from being a part of a community. And so it just felt natural for me to start my own community, especially because healthcare entrepreneurship does not have a lot of resources for the business side of things. We have lots of resources for clinical, education and mentorship, but very, very little resources for business education and mentorship. So a part of my community was to not just create the opportunity for mentorship and collaboration, but also for education, so that I can bring in experts into the community that can pour into the members who need that education on how to be successful business owners.
Yeah, that's so amazing. I love that so much. And there's so much power in that community too, right? And you're able to pour in, and I'm sure you've gotten some out of that community too, that reciprocal support, which is so important. Yes,
definitely. I learned from the people that I get to mentor and who are in my community. Some of the people who, and I can even speak to the Foundress, the Foundress has been so helpful for me, not just from, the resources that you guys provide, but also the people that I have met, the people who I've been able to make connections with and have poured back into me. So, anytime I need something, whether it's a speaker from my own community or I'm hosting an event, I go directly to the Foundress. I'm like, who in the Foundress can help me? Because I know I can find somebody. And I think that is why I'm always in community. And I was at one point in like a dozen communities, and I have had to cut back on some because the resources are just incredible, and the human capital, the human capital in community is what I feel is the biggest ROI.
Yeah. It's so amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've been doing this thing in Foundress that we talk about the big ask. So you were there. We did the big ask, and really just empowering women. It's hard for us to ask for help.
Yes.
I think, and our society tells us that we're supposed to be super women. We're supposed to be in the kitchen and cook and do the grocery shopping. Oh, and also you're supposed to bring income in. Oh, and also you're not supposed to complain about it. Oh, and also you're not supposed to ask for help. And so we have been taught that it is a sign of weakness to ask for help. And we're trying to flip that on its head, because asking is power. And so I'd love to have you share one of your big asks that you have in your, whether it's in your business, in your life, something that you're kind of working towards that you need resources, support, encouragement, whatever that is.
Okay.
Do you have a big ask?
I do have a big ask.
Awesome.
It sounded like there was no K. Yeah.
We need to really enunciate here.
Yes. Yes. As a speech therapist, I'm like, let's enunciate. So yes, I did have a big ask, and mine was to find some women who were interested in pouring back into my community. Yeah. As I mentioned, I like to bring outside resources into the speech language pathologist community that I've built, because a lot of our members think that they can only find help within speech language pathology. And that's so far from the truth. I've gained so many friends, colleagues, just from venturing outside of what's in front of me. We have our annual convention every year for speech language pathology, and it's huge. There's thousands, tens of thousands of people there. But even still, I haven't found the same level of support necessarily, or resources within that community. So I have to go outside and find people elsewhere. Yeah. So my big ask was, who can I bring in to support my ladies? Mm-hmm. And you, of course, were one of the top people on my list because of what you do. Your community has expanded even online. Yeah. So people don't have to be in Arizona to be a part of Foundress anymore. Right. I think that's amazing. And I also asked a couple of other women who would be great to come and speak, because they're in similar fields. We have someone who's a child psychologist. SLPs work with child psychologists all the time. We have someone who's a physical therapist. So these are people who are in industries very close to mine, that if I were at a networking event, those are the first people I would literally go talk to, because I feel like we can do business together.
That's so good. And I love I think there's a misconception that when someone is on the Inc. 5000 or in the Inc. 5000 award and has 100 employees and making multi-millions of dollars, that there's like, oh, they've made it. They don't need anything, right?
No, I just stuff.
I just love breaking that barrier down of I would like to argue that we ask more questions of other people. We ask more of other people because we are juggling so much more.
Yeah.
I don't cook. I don't do the laundry. Mm-hmm. Like, there's things that I delegate out of my life because I can't do both. Mm-hmm. And the things that bring me joy and make me a better human being and a better mom are the things over here. And so I'm going to try to delegate these things. So I ask for help a lot. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the more successful I've become, the more I ask for help. And so I just think it's so important to break that misconception down, of that we all need to ask. We all have to ask for help. And I think that you building the community is creating a safe space for other SLPs to come to that table and go, I need some advice. I need a resource. I need help. I need someone to come speak, whatever it is. Like, that community element is so important to teach and lead others to be able to ask questions.
Yes.
Like, we have to model that.
We do.
Right?
We do. And I'm always asking people for advice, for help. I mean, I'm someone who's a lifelong learner. So there's always going to be something that I can learn or that I can utilize from being in a community, even if it's with women who are not on the Inc. 5000 or who are just getting started. There's always an opportunity somewhere. You just have to look for it.
Absolutely. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, how can we find you?
So you can find me online. I'm SLP Biz Queen at SLP for speech language pathologist, Biz Queen. That is my personal brand page. You can also find me on my speech language pathology private practice page, and that's at the Speak Center.
Awesome. And we'll put those in the show notes. But before we go, I like to have everyone kind of share a tits up moment in your own life, something that has made you proud. Maybe that was a little scary, that you shoulders back, tits up, and you did it anyway. Can you share one thing with us today?
Yeah. I would have to say hosting a live conference was definitely a tits up moment for me. I hosted this conference for the first time in Austin in 2024. And then we just hosted it again in Scottsdale in 25. hosting a live event was very scary because I didn't think anyone was going to sign up. I thought, I have an online community. People love me online, but are they going to actually spend their money and fly across the country to come and sit in a room, and listen to people talk to them all day? I didn't know. But people, gave me so much great feedback about the conference that after I did it once, I was like, okay, I guess I'll do it again. So Scottsdale was incredible. And we even had to, one of our speakers unfortunately had to cancel at like the very last minute. And I was able to call on one of my Foundress girls to come in. Literally, it was like 3 days before. And she got on stage and she did such an amazing job. So that was my tits up moment, was hosting this conference, doing it seamlessly, and just hearing about the impact that it made on so many people's lives.
So amazing. Ebony, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate your honesty and boldness, and I hope you all enjoyed this episode.
It was so nice, Coley, to sit down with you. And yes, hopefully I can be back on sometime in the future.
We'd love that.
And I will definitely be tuning in to the next episode.
Awesome. Thanks, Ebony. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If this spoke to you, share it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a conversation. You've got this. Stay clear, stay grounded, and stay true to what you're building. Until next time, tits up.